and call this meeting to order. Nathan, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember McPherson.
Here.
Councilmember Biggs.
Here.
Councilmember Rocco.
Present.
Council President Bruce.
Here.
Mayor Staer.
Here. And if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. The first item is the consent agenda.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull items
3D 2 through 8.
D 2 through 8 and make them business items 7D 2 through 8, or
Okay.
1 through 7 rather.
All right. Anything further? No.
And then I move we approve the consent agenda with those edits.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, oh, I'm sorry. Nathan, would you poll the council, please?
Councilmember McPherson.
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs.
Yes.
Councilmember Rocco.
Yes.
Council President Bruce.
Yes.
And that motion carries. And this isn't on the agenda, but kind of did this last minute, so I did want to take a moment to recognize Nancy Stauffer. This will be her last council meeting with us, moving on to retirement. In her role as director of the HR department, Nancy has helped establish several policies and projects that have made the city of Kuna a great place to work. She worked alongside Bobby Withrow to get merit raises for all departments. She streamlined evaluations and tied them to longevity and merit. And she helped starting wages raised for water and sewer operators. She created Employee Appreciation Barbecue 5 years ago and brought back the Employee Holiday Party as well. In 2025, her office put together the Mental Health Month Awareness Initiative and shared it internally as well as to the public. Nancy also completed a 2025 independent wage study by working with other cities instead of hiring out, which saved the city over $25,000. Nancy, as you step into retirement, we know that your legacy will continue to inspire all of us who had the privilege of working alongside you, and we appreciate your time, dedication, and commitment to the city of Kuna and its residents. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. And now that you won't have an office, we have a plaque for you. I told her I was only going to embarrass her a little.
Thank you, Miss Nancy.
And she's actually the one that helped establish the HR department by including it with payroll, so that it actually made that position viable for a full-time person. So I appreciated that very much because that was pretty disconjointed there for quite a while. So thank you for that. All right, next we have public comment. Cindy Geeson, if you would state your name and address for the record, you may have the floor.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. My name's Cindy Geeson. My address is 1363 South Ash Avenue, Kuna, Idaho. What I'd like to talk about is our treatment of our citizens. I've been coming to this hearing for many years, and time after time I see people come up here and speak and talk about how they never got noticed, they didn't know something was going on only to find out that it was approved maybe decades ago. Okay, and I think it's unfair that they have to keep doing this. And we've talked about it in the past. This CUNA grew faster than the city knew how to handle it. It's like, we used to be able to put our keys on our dashboard and not worry about it being stolen. And now, and that's what the attitude is the city seemed to have. You know, they didn't pay attention to the details. So now we've got all these developments coming here that are being denied because somebody else from 2009 owns the water rights, owns the space in the sewer. I've been to many where we've denied them because somebody else owns it and they never develop it. And then, homes are built around them. There's new neighbors. And then other people come in decades ago and say, I want my rights. And without having to do any ADCH, evaluations, they just want to use the old rules. And I think it's just so unfair to our people and our schools and every other utility impact it puts on us when we adhere to those. So what I'm asking is, once again, is please consider a moratorium until you can figure out what you should do to stop this from happening, from people just coming out, selling their property, or new developer who comes in here and tries to use the old rules. And you gotta do something. You gotta stop treating us, in the past you would just let it go. You'd say, sorry, we already made this promise, so we have to let this happen. You gotta stop letting this happen. So please, consider our citizens, the ones that are here now, and fix this. And I think the only way is a moratorium so you can sit down and study how to fix it. Okay, thank you. That's my pet peeve.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. David Wardell, if you would state your name and address, you may have the floor, sir.
David Wardell, 2230 East Condor Lane. About a year ago, I came to this council to point out that the CUNA Building Department needed to improve their operation. I have presented multiple times to date information supporting the egregious construction errors that are prevailing in this jurisdiction. These apparently have been ignored, as the practices in the field don't appear to have changed. The city's advertising for an additional inspector. Some of the listed requirements includes responds to citizens' questions and comments courteously, fairly, and promptly. I've attempted to discuss these issues with the building official, but the time I came in and he was in the office, he refused to come out and see me. I also left a message on another occasion for him to call me. And Mayor, you were with me at that time, and that was ignored. Another skill required in the new hire listing is the ability and willingness to quickly learn and use new skills and knowledge brought about by rapidly changing information. The information I have attempted to impart has categorically been ignored. I did receive a letter from Doug Hansen stating that it is unfortunate that my interpretations of the code do not coincide with the interpretations of the building official. I thought this was almost, for me, it was humorous, because several of the building codes and procedures listed in my letters that are currently being violated are building codes that I was personally involved in drafting. Over 6 months ago, I presented to the mayor a formal request for an appeals board hearing to adjudicate the interpretations of the building official. This procedure is described in both the IRC, International Residential Code, and the International Building Code. To date, I have not received a response regarding this request. It appears that the requirements set forth for the future building inspector exceed the practices of the current administration. Transparency, along with prompt, fair, and accurate responses, are a hallmark of a government fairly serving the citizens of its jurisdiction. This government appears to fall short. You've got a huge development going, 250 units, and the entire building envelope is in violation of the code. And no one will do anything about it. The building department, or the building code, has a whole section in the commercial building code on how important the external building envelope is. And it is being ignored The specifications from the architect have been ignored and have been violated, and this building keeps going on, and I have been unable to get anybody to do anything. And I think the government feels that this government is falling very short in serving its citizens properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can go first. Mr.
Mr.
Worley?
Wardell, we have some questions. I just wanted to ask, how did you come to these determinations? Is this public information that you're gleaning from, or as far as going out and saying that these places are not up to code?
Some of them, and I have stated earlier that I was actually able to determine by driving by the building at 55 miles an hour, and it was 200 yards away from the building. It's that obvious. Some things I had to get a little closer, but that was what alerted me to start looking into this.
Well, when I say looking into it, I mean, this is private property, that's why I'm kind of curious.
Oh, I
how
don't
you-
need to. All I have to do is get a copy of the plans from the city and look over them, drive by the building, take a look. I don't need to get on the property.
And you've done that?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And I think Councilmember Bruce had a question.
No, I'm gonna follow up with you after we're done.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Lane Thornton.
Lane Thornton, 3224 Swan Falls Road. I want to give you a little history lesson back here. In the early 60s, my dad and grandfather went out along Swan Falls Road across from the sewer plants, and each of them bought a half a section, 320 acres, and cleared sagebrush and rocks and drilled wells and started farming it. And I'm grateful for them that they were able to make that work, because it's been a blessing for me and my family and my children as well over all these years. But along in 1972, my parents built a house there, which we started living in, which is catty corner from the sewer plants. And then over the years, my parents lived in it. And then as I got married and had kids, my parents moved to another place. And then we lived in it with our family. And now my son lives in that place. And so in the early 80s, the city of Cuna decided they needed a sewer plant or lagoons, and so they decided to go out there and build it. And so my dad was obviously opposition to it, and he was told at that time that you don't have anything to worry about. This will never be a problem. You won't ever have any issues with it. And so. And it was fine for quite a while, and then as the city started to grow and they started putting more product in it, then it got to where it can handle it, and pretty soon there got to be a pretty good order. And so Dad would come down and he'd talk to the city, and pretty much all he would get would be excuses, and nothing would happen. And even the mayor at that time, he liked to blame it on the dairy across the road. I remember Dad saying, well, he just told me it was just kind of the orders were just kind of mixing out here. It wasn't us. And if you know a dairy smell and a sewer smell, they're very distinctly they're different. So, but that was Greg Nelson at the time, and so this past summer it got to where it got bad again, and so we asked Greg, and he gave us the number of Travis, and so my wife communicated with him 2 or 3 times, and we kind of got the same runaround that and his saying was that we heard from other places. Well, it's just turning over. It just does that for 1 week in the fall and one week in the spring, and I go, well, this is in the summer. Is it going to turn over? It seems like it's turning over all year round, and so he said he was going to work on it, but it didn't seem like anything happened. And then this winter it got really bad again. In fact, it would get so bad that if you were outside, you were over being outside. You would go in the house, and you would even stand by the window, and it would even kind of creep through the window. It got to be that bad. And so again, we mentioned this to Greg, and Greg actually gave me Adam's number, and so I called on a Friday and left Adam a message, and he called me back on Monday morning, and we visited for a little bit, and I kinda explained to him what was going on, and
Mr. Thornton, that's your time if
and
you
I
can
know-
finalize your comments.
Mayor, can I keep going?
Yeah,
here,
go ahead.
please? Thank you. And so we visited for a little bit, and I know something about this. There's an oxygen level that has to be maintained, and I mentioned to him, I go, there's something wrong. It shouldn't smell like this. And then I was really surprised. He said, well, we're okay. We're meeting all the regulations, and we don't have any issues. And so I said, well, okay. I didn't know where to go after that, and so I decided, well, I think it was that night I texted you, Joe, and you came out and
Yeah.
smelled, and
It wasn't the dairy.
it wasn't the dairy, because you drove right up next to it, and then you said you would get back to me, and I didn't hear anything for a couple of days, and so I got on DEQ's website, and I filled out a complaint, and then this nice lady the next day calls me, her name's Jessie. She says, well, I explained everything to her, and she said, well, I'll look into it, I'll give them a call. And then the very next day or the day after, she calls me back, and she says she's talked to Travis, and Travis, he said, yeah, we know we got a problem with one of the ponds, we're working on it. And at that point, what am I supposed to think? I've been told all along that there's no problem here. Even Adam tells me we're fine. We don't have any issues. But yet, when it comes to be, maybe somebody that obviously has some teeth, then the story changes. And so, I guess my question is, I guess history is probably going to repeat itself. That's how I like, a lot of times we predict the future by looking at history. Chances are this is probably going to happen again. Is there somebody in the city that I can call that'll fix this, or do I just fill out a report with DEQ? Because DEQ, if you get so many complaints, then you have a chance of losing your permit, and then I don't know what you do as a city at that point. Once you have a problem with a permit with the DEQ. So, I guess that's the question I have. So, and I'm really disappointed in the way that I was treated from the city. To me, I'm an upfront person. If you got a problem, tell me. If you're trying to work on it, fine. But don't tell me you're in compliance when you're not. Or tell me, or give us excuses.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'll stand for any questions.
Yeah, and I
if
know
there
we
are.
did some work out there on some blowers and things like that. I don't know, Adam could probably give a better description of what that is, but
Well,
is the smell happening now?
And I would like to report after a couple of weeks after this, that it did improve.
Okay.
But why did it take this to get there? See, I am very confident that they would have continued to do nothing if I hadn't gone to the DEQ.
Well, we appreciate you letting us know. I think they did have to order stuff in order to get the blowers done, so that took a little bit of time, but I talked to Adam right after going out and smelling that odor that was not dairy, and they started on it right away, so whatever time it took to get in the parts they needed and all that, so.
Yeah, but I don't know how often you have employees that go out, city employees that go out to the ponds, you see them driving up on top, they're working there. I think they can smell. I would imagine they can. We're just, we're just putting this off until we have to. That's what it seems like.
Well, I appreciate
So,
your comments.
anyway, so, All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornton.
All right, and that's all I had signed up. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the council that didn't get a chance to sign in? All right. That takes us to business items. Item A is Title IV Building Department Regulations Update. Stephen Barker.
Good evening, Mayor, Staer, and members of the council. For the record, Stephen Barker, City Building Official, CUNA Development Services Department, 751 West 4th Street, CUNA, Idaho. The item before you this evening requests input on a new proposed Title IV Development Regulations Code. Jurisdictions amend by ordinance the administrative and design criteria of building code to reflect local concerns. Title IV was most recently updated with changes to Chapter 4 in 2013 and 2017. The rest of the chapters within Title IV have not seen significant revisions since 2001 to 2004. Title IV is being updated to reflect current administrative policies and design criteria specific to CUNA that were not specified in earlier versions of this title. We also spent time reviewing municipal codes of other local jurisdictions to ensure that we can implement an improved building regulations code that is more relevant to today. With that, I will stand by for any questions you have.
Okay, questions for Stephen?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember
Thank you,
Rocco.
Stephen. The ordinance designates that the city council is going to act as the building appeals board. Approximately how many appeals does staff anticipate annually, and was a separate technical appeals board considered?
We have not had an appeals to the best of my knowledge, so I don't anticipate really any appeals. It wasn't even found in the previous Title IV. There was no appeals section. So what I did is I kind of, like I said, I went through a lot of the different jurisdictions. When you're Boise, you have a full-blown appeals court, which is spelled out as engineers, architects, contractors, and, you know, they're appointed by, you know, the mayor. I kind of looked at some of the smaller jurisdictions that we kind of align with in size, like Eagle, and kind of adopted kind of what their process is. And kind of, when you look at it, that's kind of what I thought was kind of more appropriate for the size of our city, because a city our size trying to find and appoint, you know, architects, engineers, contractors that are going to show up to be part of an appeals board, it seemed difficult. So that's why I thought it was better to make, you know, the council the appeals board.
Could that be changed in the future?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
anything can be changed. Just has to come to council and be voted on.
Did you happen to look at Staer? Staer is getting close to our equivalent. Did you see how they were handling it?
Staer didn't have a real good description of what their appeals process was.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further?
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. So this is a business item. If there's anything that council would like to discuss on that, we can, or.
No.
or if
I
you
think-
want to-
Yeah, I think Councilman Rocco asked the questions I was leaning towards, so.
Okay.
Councilman Biggs,
No.
do you guys have anything?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, do we need to take action to approve this?
Yeah,
No, this is just a discussion item.
Okay, that's,
oh, it does say discussion.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
So, I guess, Doug, what's the time frame on this?
For the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director. So we just wanted to get this forward before you for a discussion item to answer any questions or address any comments you have. So we'll have it prepared for you at the next meeting for an approval.
So this won't be a public hearing or anything like that?
No, this would not require a public hearing for approval.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Moving on to item B is Seasons Creek Development Agreement modification. Doug Hanson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Doug Hanson, Planning and Zoning Director, 751 West 4th Street, Kuna, Idaho. The Seasons Creek Development Agreement modification, case number 26-01-DA, came before the City Council on June 2nd, 2026, where it was denied. The decision and reason statement appeared before you on the consent agenda this evening, and the applicant has made staff aware that they intend to seek reconsideration. As it stands, based upon Council's action at the June 2nd, 2026 meeting, the Seasons Creek Development Agreement, as recorded on July 8th, 2008, is active. The table on page 323 of your packet provides a summary of the entitlements under the existing development agreement, requested entitlements under the proposed development agreement modification, and future build-out potential of the subject site should the development agreement be terminated. So this evening, the City of Kuna Planning and Zoning Department is seeking authorization from Council to proceed with either termination of the development agreement or receive direction for future modifications for the Seasons Creek Development Agreement. And with that, I will stand by for your questions.
Okay, questions for Doug?
Is there going to be anybody else presenting, or is that just it right there, Doug?
Yep, that's it for now.
Okay.
Yep.
And then who would I ask the questions to? Is it you?
You
or
can
to Tro-
direct them at me, and if I need
Okay.
to, Troy can answer some as well.
Okay, then, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I have a series of questions I'd like to ask.
Councilmember Rocco,
If
you
you
may
would
have the
allow me
floor.
to indulge, and I really would like to talk to the citizens also. You know, as I prepared for tonight's discussion, I tried to focus on one thing, and what is the outcome that best serves the CUNA community over the long term. For me, this discussion is not about rewarding or punishing a developer. It is not about preserving an agreement simply because it already exists, nor is it about changing an agreement simply because another option may be available. My responsibility is to determine what outcome leaves CUNA, the CUNA community, in the strongest position 5, 10, or even 20 years from now. And with that in mind, I do have several related questions that will form this framework. So, Doug, I'll go ahead and shoot these at you then, if you don't mind. You just help me to understand what actually changes if the development agreement is terminated. Which elements of the current plan remain binding through zoning approvals and existing entitlements, and which elements would no longer be required?
So if you look, if I like point you back to that table on
I did, I
page,
saw it.
okay, yeah. So there would be no entitlements at that point,
Got
other
it.
than it is in the city of Kuna, and it needs to be a application that's compliant with city code and the local land use planning act.
Got it. So there'll be
Yep.
no commercial then?
Yeah, but it's still within the city of Kuna. That's correct. It would be ag. There would be no entitled zoning. It would just be ag across all acreage.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And I think I did reach out to Troy with this. So I don't know if either one of you had done the research. Can the staff identify the approved developments that contain donated, dedicated, or committed school sites, where they're located, and how Seasons Creek site compares to those opportunities from the standpoint of future educational needs? So I'm seeking to know, how many and where are they located?
Okay, yep. So there is I'll go forward with a public school site that is located within the approved Napa Vineyards development,
Which is the same developer.
which is the same developer,
it.
correct? And that is on the northwest corner of, well, it stretches all the way from Hubbard Road to Columbia Road, the northwest corner of Hubbard moving north. And then you have the 3 school sites that are already owned by the school district. Those are within the Silver Trail development area on the southeast corner of 10 Mile and Columbia Road. The Patagonia East school site, which is at the southeast corner of Locust Grove and Hubbard Road. And then you have the 96 acres off of the Kuna Curve on Kuna Road. And then beyond those, we have 3 approved charter school sites. One would be the Valor Academy within the Falcon Crest Plan Unit Development, which is under construction. The Gallica Heights Charter School, which is on the intersection of Columbia and Black Hat Road. That's an approved project, but we haven't seen the design come forward, as well as the charter school that was approved as a component of the Madrone Village subdivision, which is at the intersection of Cuna Road and 10 Mile.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that research. So if I did the calculation correct, we have approximately 7 schools in the hopper somewhere along the line. We have, we got 6 public and 3 charter, somewhere in the, that there's land for.
Yeah, so there's land for 3. Yes, as far as the number of schools that can be placed on those, that would depend on the acreage and what the school district wanted to do. But yes, we have 4 sites owned by KSD, and then we have 3 sites owned by KSD. 1 site is a part of an approved development agreement and development, and then yes, 3 charter school sites.
Got it. And just, I know you were rattling off, which would be the closest one to the Stevens Creek area? Of all those schools, which one would be the closest?
That would be the charter school as a part of the Madrone Village project.
Got it. And Madrone is what, less than a mile away?
Correct.
Okay. And then speaking about Madrone, I reached out to Chris, and evidently they're constructing a 5-acre park. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Chris Regley, Parks and Rec Director, 371 West Shortline Road. That's correct. It's a 5-acre park right next to the charter school.
Right. And that's within also a mile of where the Stevens Creek is proposed also.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. And from what you were looking at with the Season Creeks, what would be the difference? This is 5 acres. You're looking for more like baseball, soccer. Do you know what the size would have been for Seasons Creek?
I'm not sure what Seasons Creek was going to bring to the table as far as the size of a park exactly. But like I mentioned to you, we would be happy to take on whatever we could get, especially if it comes with sports fields.
Thank you, Chris. May a few more questions?
You bet.
Thank you.
Councilman Rocco, it says 26 acres of open space, so
Okay.
so possibly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but that's not all parks, though.
No.
No.
Okay.
Chris, what is our minimum acreage for a city park?
City park for a neighborhood park would be 3 acres, and a city park is 5 acres.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Go
Doug,
ahead, Councilmember Rock.
thank you. Doug, maybe this is more of an esoteric question. Which public benefits contained within the current development agreement would likely be permanently lost if the agreement was terminated, which I think you already answered. Everything is lost, correct? Okay. And then which benefits could realistically be recovered through future subdivision approvals?
Through future subdivision approvals, the only requirement that we would have is that it would comply with the future land use map. So at this point in time, it would be an R6 zoning request would comply with our future land use map. And then in which they would be able to apply for 1,087 residential lots with a gross density of 6 units per acre. And then they would be required to have 12.5% open space.
Got it. Thank you. Just 2 more questions, Doug. Which benefits could realistically be recovered? I'm sorry, is the 1,087 lots there, because that's what they're proposing if it gets terminated?
Oh, that's
I'm sorry.
Well, that's what they would be able to propose.
Right,
That's
right. Is that
yeah.
a realistic development outcome, or is it simply a theoretical maximum? Is that realistic, that they can put 1,087 homes on that lot?
So 1,087 lots could be placed at that gross density. We look at that through net, so you could potentially see a 15 to 20% reduction in that lot count, depending on how the road network looks and the amount of open space.
Got it. Maybe you need a crystal ball on this one. What transportation constraints would need to be overcome before the higher density scenario could realistically move forward? We're talking about 1,087. What transportation constraints would there be, or could be?
So that would all be revealed through the preliminary plat applications. They'll be required to submit a traffic impact study to Ada County Highway District. Those will be reviewed, and then they'll provide the mitigation measures that would be required.
Right, but if you're looking at the area now as it is, and you're talking about, was it 637 or something like that?
637.
637. Anyway, I think I'm done. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Further questions? Yes,
I don't
Councilmember.
have a question, more of a statement, because as the person, I was the sole person who voted against the denial, and simply because of what the devil in the details of, what you know versus what you do not know. And the fact that as long as they meet all of the minimum requirements, and I'll say that again, as long as they meet all the minimum requirements, Doug, right? there's nothing we can really do if they come back with this R6 straight residential. So, and then up to 1,087 residential lots with a minimum of 12.5% open space. That's what we're facing. And that's basically, I'm not a fan of, especially where this location was with what they were proposing before, but when I look at it and compare the two, because I can imagine a developer would take full advantage of exactly what the future land use map says. That's why the other option didn't look as bad to me, especially because it does have commercial, which we all agree the city badly needs commercial. So there was commercial that went along with this. The build out was 8 to 10 years, and provided that when it does come back before us, pre-plat and final plat and everything else, there's those ACHD requirements have to be met. You know, that's kind of why I went the way I did. Although I agree with you guys in principle of not wanting to have more growth in this situation. I'm just skeptical of what's going to happen in the future once if you decide to terminate this RA.
I have a question.
Councilmember Bruce.
Doug, the traffic impact study was done on the original piece of property that's already being developed, right? They didn't do a traffic impact study including this modification?
So a traffic impact study was prepared when they submitted a preliminary plat application for Seasons Creek North, which would be 1/3 of this overall development. But there was no decisions made on those applications, because through that process is when we looked at this DA and had to bring it forward for a modification to bring it up to date.
So if, I have another one.
Councilmember Bruce.
So if, let's say we did, discuss the, reconsidering the project, could we have them do a traffic study with all of it? And then also like a neighborhood hearing as well? Because I know some of the neighbors had said that they didn't have a chance to comment on the modification or how it would change that neighborhood. Are those things that we can ask for?
So we would just require the traffic impact study threshold would be decided upon by Ada County Highway District, and that would happen at the time of a preliminary plat application submittal. I don't think that the developer had interest in submitting one plat for all 637 lots just due to the sheer volume and size of that project. That's why they wanted to break it into 3 preliminary plats, which would be more manageable chunks, and we'd be able to look at all the transportation and traffic impacts of each of those plats. And then as you progress and a plat builds out and you get to the next one, some of those mitigation factors may change based upon how everything else is developing as well, because they're not just looking at these things through a site-specific lens. They're looking at it in a greater scope than just the project area, but as it reaches out into the city and affects other road networks and things like that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and the neighborhood meeting? Is that
Yeah, so
something-
every single preliminary plat application that would be submitted would require a neighborhood meeting to be held and a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council.
But we'd have to approve it first, approve this modification first.
So if you wanted to move forward with the development agreement modification, then yes, there would be future public hearings for each of these preliminary plats.
Mark Bybee, City Attorney. So just listen to that. I think the thing is, though, too, Councilman Bruce, is even as it exists right now, the DA still exists, right? You didn't modify it. Even under the existing one, I think there'd still be neighborhood meetings if they come with a plat under that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not attached to whether or not there's modification on reconsideration were to get approved. It would still be there. Those would still happen under the current DA that's still there.
I have another question for the chief.
Councilmember Bruce.
Hey, Chief. The policing on the south side of the tracks, I know we've added, there have been more developments that have already been approved. I don't know how to ask this question.
Substation, maybe?
Yeah, would you need a substation on the south side of the tracks, or what's the thought process about being able to maintain the laws and protect the people that are being built down there. Just what's your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, Chad Hessing, CUNA Chief of Police, 793 West 4th Street. Yes, so that it being on the south side of the tracks, it is going to cause a delay in police response time. As far as substations go, we do have the fire department that's building an area over there that could possibly hold a report writing room, which would potentially have a couple deputies that could staff it if we had the staffing to do so. But without that, then yes, it is going to increase our response time.
One more question.
Councilmember Bruce.
Doug, if we do deny this or we go to terminate this modification, it goes back to R6 or agriculture. Does it have to be rezoned back to R6 after we decline the modification, or terminate it rather?
So first off, in order to terminate the agreement, we would need to, so you would give us that direction, and then we would need to hold a public hearing, and we would need to notice for it, and it would be a termination public hearing. If at that point it's decided that it would be terminated, it would revert back to agricultural zoning.
So then they'd have to come back and we reapprove it back to R6. I just want to make sure it wasn't part of an LID somewhere where it's already R6.
It's entitled to R6, currently R6 in commercial zoning, but it would revert back to ag, so they would have to go through a rezone and preliminary plat process in the future should the DA be terminated.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'd just like to make one note, since the Thorntons are here, the basically 100-acre property, 96 acres, whatever it was, on CUNA Road was donated by Lane's parents without benefit of asking for anything in return. It wasn't part of a development or anything like that. It was something because they wanted to donate that property for a school site. So
Okay.
that's something that's very rare, but kudos to them for doing such a thing. The only stipulation was that it went to the school district and that a school was built there. So just wanted to throw that in because that's a great piece of history.
Thank you. Did you have any more?
Further question?
So I guess the discussion item is, how would you like to proceed? What's your thoughts?
Are you still recusing yourself, Councilman Fierce? Okay,
All part of it, so.
thank you.
I think I already
Yeah.
said, I'm not a big fan of terminating just because I don't like the loss of commercial, the amount of lots in the acreage that is currently charted compared to what we could get. And I'm afraid that we will get, if they come back and meet the minimum requirements. Because this isn't an annexation, it's already annexed. So we're limited in what we can do. Mark, I think.
Thank you, Mark Bybee, City Attorney. So, after the meeting, like where you guys voted to deny the modification, this resulted in a conversation between me and Doug, and I was just like, I felt like there needed to be some consideration of, okay, we denied the modification, but the DA still exists. If I kind of anticipated a reconsideration would probably happen, and I feel like, because honestly, based on the vote that Councilman Rocco initially made, where he wanted to default the agreement, I felt like we needed to have this potentially in a position where, let's say even after reconsideration, the council still of the mind of denial, that at least that there's some other alternative than just the status quo available, if that makes sense, whether that's termination, whether that's modification where the city instead is proposing changes back to the developer, because it is an agreement, right? It's capable of negotiation and changes. And so maybe it's not outright termination. Maybe the city's coming back and saying, yeah, your proposed modification was a no, but we would consider this. And so I'm trying to generate some other conversation, and have it noticed in a way that other conversation could happen. Because I might be reading the room wrong. I was under the impression that the city council wasn't necessarily satisfied with the DA as it exists, but wasn't prepared to accept the modification. Now I'm kind of hearing maybe termination isn't the thing, and so it's like, where do we land? I'm trying to open up an option that the conversation's more than just you know, the reconsideration again if it was denied on reconsideration, that it's still, you know, back to the status quo. Does that make sense?
Well, so Mark, I guess to continue, my question would be, if in a perfect world I saw that, you know, I think we had some people come and testify, R2, R4, but that's not really our thing, I guess, you know, that would be a planning and zoning type of an action, and we're past that, right? It's not when you say there's a negotiation, we can't go back and say, hey, you know, you really should put this as R2 or R4.
Well,
for
you can
example.
propose anything in a negotiation. The other side doesn't have to come to terms with you.
So we could,
That's the-
we could essentially rehear it. I know that, you know, some of the folks had complained about their, you know, their lots and how it backs up to them. And having a better buffer zone, that's something that during the reconsideration we could offer. Is that what I'm hearing you
Well,
say?
the reconsideration, because when it comes to you as a reconsideration, it's reconsidering like what they asked for. It's not reconsidering like let's come up with a new plan. And so I see the idea as if you were to actually, as the city, initiate either an amendment or termination process, that you're actually opening it up to more than just the narrow window that it's framed in that application that was pending and decided, and sounds like is coming back on reconsideration.
What's some examples, Mark? Why don't you give us some examples?
On what we could propose back?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, you're
I mean, just a
getting
little
me.
paradigm shift?
I don't know if I have examples, honestly,
Right.
for you off the cuff. Like, it's really like, what do you want? Like, you know, it's annexed into the city, you know, it's future land use as R6, so that's what would have come back as, even if you lost the zoning. So I think it's really looking at it from that angle. Like, you know, it can come back as R6. Well, what is desirable for that? You are the residents of this community, have an idea as to what you're wanting or what is more appropriate in what locations, if that makes sense. And so I think a consideration as to really what the city council would hope to see there. I kind of got to put it back on you. I don't know necessarily what's the right development. I'd look at your development director, because that's a development strategy question more than a legal question.
I think one thing, like Councilmember Biggs had a concern with the location of the school, so you could actually come back with saying, we'd prefer to see the school site closer to Black Cat Road, or, you know, however you want to do that. But so I think you could make some of those modifications, and you could even ask for a small reduction on lots, and maybe increase the park size, or I think there's a lot of options. Whether or not they agree to it or not would be a whole other story, but.
Well, can we table this as we explore options? Or are we gonna have to make a decision tonight?
Well, if you decide tonight, all you're being asked to decide tonight is whether you want the city to initiate its own application that would result in a public hearing for the subject of termination or a city-initiated modification. That's what's being asked, not to decide what to actually do with this DA, but to initiate a process.
Yeah.
So there'd still be a lot to be sorted out.
Yeah.
And I'm not there.
You were-
I'm not at that point
You were not at what point?
where I would want them to proceed with the termination. I see an extra 400-something houses as problematic in that area.
And I guess I would have the question, is it possible they could also just terminate on their own, that they would push to terminate with us? And then they just go right after that third option?
I think they could initiate an application. I don't have off the cuff what the decision criteria would look like, because some of it would be the terms of the DA itself, whether they even have a right on their own to unilaterally terminate or not.
I think it
I'd
would be up
expect-
to us.
Yeah, I'd
I would
expect
hope
it.
it is.
Yeah, from what I read, we would have to initiate the process in that. At least that's the way I read it.
I know under state code, the cities always have the right to initiate a termination or modification. They just have that. If this applicant could actually initiate the termination, I still think it'd be a subject of whether the city would agree to it, right? Because the city would be losing rights, and I'd be surprised. Again, I just haven't looked closely enough at this DA to know what the termination provision is. I'd just be shocked if it said this applicant can terminate it whenever they darn well please. That would be unusual. I think there'd have to be some acceptance or agreement by the city for that to happen.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
One more question for Mr. Bobby. So
Councilmember Bruce.
now that we've kind of, I guess Development Services would have their ability to go and talk with the developer. We wouldn't, because it would come back before us. So could they take the information that they heard tonight and propose to the developer kind of what we're thinking?
I
I mean,
think-
we're not gonna take any action on this.
Yeah, they can always reach out and have a conversation. The issue is right now, nothing's truly pending at the moment.
Okay.
We've been told a reconsideration may be coming, but that's not,
Okay.
you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
nothing.
It has, I
yeah,
get it.
No decision to be made pending
Okay.
or currently.
So at this point, it would just be a matter of approving for planning and zoning to meet with the developer and see what terms they can come up with. And
Councilman Morocco?
I have nothing else to say about it, Chris. I think as I look at this long-term, I just don't see, I don't see it as a good thing for CUNA, that's all.
Yeah.
I-
Well, and the problem is that we're bound by laws that since it's annexed into the city,
I got that,
yeah, we can't just say no
I got that.
because we want to.
I got that.
It's a process where we could say, no, we're not gonna do it. They'll sue us, they'll build it anyway. We'll spend the taxpayers' money fighting it in court, and then we're still back at 1,087 houses.
Has that happened before?
Have we been sued before?
well, we've been through a lot of things where things.
Well,
just-
Caldwell's being sued right now over the same type of thing.
Right, but would we be sued for terminating?
No, not for,
I don't think so.
no.
No.
Not for terminating, but,
No.
so you're in the consensus that you would rather terminate it and then let them come back with another 1,100 houses later on?
Possibly. Possibly. I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get a traffic, to be able to handle that kind of volume.
The traffic doesn't tell us yes or no. It just says it's an E rating or,
And they'll have to meet the minimum.
right. And I'm not fighting for it, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you
Right.
the process of what we've seen here before.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. I mean, I'm on board with you. But again, just like what, Councilman Bruce is saying,
The problem is this
Stop.
stuff's been approved, annexed into the city years and years ago, and I don't know how we deal with that.
Which has been the problem with most of the growth that we have here to
Okay.
date, was because that was all done in 2007 and 8.
Mark Bybee, City Attorney. Since we're talking about this, I think it's relevant to bring up, because there's other DAs out there that I know Doug has, in his department, has gone through and kind of, I identified like an inventory of existing DAs. And I'm curious, since we're talking about this, like, what is this council's temperature for bringing some of those other ones for a similar conversation to say, should we be doing something about this proactively or waiting until an application comes and be reactive? Because it seems like these DAs, in my perception, watching what's happening in front of this council, present concerns frequently when we show up with a, 08 DA and it's like, wait, what's in there?
Yeah, well,
And so it's something I've kind of felt the need to start bringing some of these, maybe just, every agenda you're gonna have another one, no application pending. It's just like, here it is, here are some terms, like, should we be doing anything? Are you comfortable knowing this still exists?
yes,
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely should be
100%.
doing that.
Okay.
wasn't it Councilman Rocco, like a couple meetings ago, that wanted to see any of these?
Well, Doug is still
these
working
ones
on,
that are
right,
older, that we would
Yeah.
bring some of these up for air, that there'd be a mandatory
Right.
review period, and,
I think we spoke about that before, Councilman Rocco.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just finding out what is out there that can show up here.
I'm not comfortable with terminating, but I think I've already said that, so we're proceeding to termination.
How about we just table this till the next meeting? Because I'd like to look into the DA a little more.
So
Okay.
just real quick, but the options I guess we're facing now would be to proceed to termination or remit to planning and zoning to work with the developer. Those would be the two options.
Not planning and zoning to
No.
development services.
Yes.
There's
I thought it was
nothing to
planning and
remit
zoning.
today.
Yeah, we don't,
Yeah.
it's not even,
Okay.
they haven't even filed for reapprove it. So
this
there's
would
no-
be the
nothing
step
open.
after then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, is there a legal requirement that we have to respond to this? Like we're saying we're tabling, is there a time period?
No, right now, the only reason this is on your agenda is because I talked to Doug and said we should think about this because, again, the council seemed unsatisfied with the existing DA, and so it's like, okay, then what are we gonna do? And so this is purely on here as a staff request for some clarification and should we be doing anything? So the reconsideration we've talked about, they have not filed it. They've indicated they likely will, but it's not filed. So we're literally in a state right now where just, you made a decision on what they requested. That decision was denial, and that's where things stand. This question is about Seasons Creek, but it's really unrelated to that prior application. It's just, should we be doing something with this DA?
Right.
And, yeah.
So if we table this, do we have any direction for staff until the next, date, or is this just to think more?
I'd like to look into the development agreement more, and then possibly, maybe I do lean towards the termination of it. I just need to know more about where we're gonna be stuck if we don't. That's what my thoughts are.
How much time do you need?
Next week's fine, or
Okay.
next,
Next meeting, okay.
yeah, next meeting's fine. If that's okay.
Then if that's a motion, I'll second it.
Yeah. So I move we table, item,
And you don't have to do a date certain.
okay, I move we table item 7B to a date, certain. I can just,
Next meeting's July 7th, if you want it to be the next meeting.
I can just leave it open and then have them put it on the next
We can
agenda.
do that and you can table it again if you want. So
Okay.
you have all kinds of options.
Yeah, I just wanna wrap my head around it more before, you know, we put ourselves in a position where we're looking at 1,100 home subdivision that we
Well, I
can't.
think that's wise because obviously there's more, so we need to make sure we figure this out.
Yes, sir.
And I'll second.
All right, motion's made and seconded to table until the July 7th meeting, is that right, 7th?
That would be the next meeting, but it seemed like you wanted a date uncertain, so
Oh,
if we
date
could just
uncertain,
clarify
yeah.
the
A
motion.
date, yeah, I move we table, item 7B to a date uncertain, and then if I
Okay,
wanna have them put
I-
it
I
on
got
next agenda, I can have them do that.
And I still second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And then I had a question also for Mark.
Okay, Councilmember Bruce.
Mark, on all these other development agreements that are outstanding, when can we start looking at those? Will it be August or what? Just maybe a broad overview of when we can start.
I think Doug's probably better situated to answer because he's the one that's developed the inventory. I actually haven't seen the inventory of them, so
Okay.
I'd defer to Doug.
Yeah, for the record, Doug Hansen, Planning and Zoning Director. So currently, we have a mapped inventory of every development agreement we have been able to find recorded with the county between an applicant or a developer in the city of Cuna. So those are all mapped, and the way they're organized as the development agreements that are active, so under construction, development agreements that are in default, and then development agreements that have been completed, so they've been built out. So
And-
we're essentially ready to move forward in whatever capacity the council would like to see.
And then do those also include any development agreements that may have been approved at the city but never recorded at the county like this one?
So so this development agreement was recorded at the county. It was the zoning something
Okay.
happened with the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item C, City Council Workshop number 2, Jared Empey.
Good evening, council. Jared NPC, the treasurer. I'll just make the presentation from here. I think it'll be a little bit easier to control the presentation dialogue that way. So before you, we have the second installment to our budget workshops. And so if we pull up the budget schedule, we've already gone through the director presentations. And now we're on the second meeting in which we will discuss the budget and basically the assumptions that went into this. At the July 21st meeting, we'll pass our tentative budget. And essentially at the tentative budget, that's when the budget will be final from the city perspective. And then at the August 18th meeting, that will be the budget hearing in which the public will be able to make any comment if they so desire. And then what you'll see is in September, you'll see budget-related resolutions to go along with decisions made at these hearings. And then the September 10th is the last day to certify the tax levy to Ada County, at which time I will provide Form L2 to the county. And then they will pass that along to Idaho State Tax Commission. And then generally the second meeting in September is when you'll see the budget-related resolution for irrigation. And then 9/30 is the last day to publish appropriations ordinance. Generally that's done well before that, but that's when we're required to do that. So I always like to look at budgets from a macro and a microeconomic standpoint whenever I'm building a budget. So the macroeconomic budget drivers, these are forces that exist in the world and the nation that are beyond our control. So no matter what we do here in the city of Kuna, whether at the staff level or elected official level, they're things that we can't control. So the first thing is in-migration to within our nation. Often this is movement from other states, affordability, and quality of life, or easy access to the outdoors. Those are some of the key drivers that we've seen people express who have moved from other states to Idaho. Second is reshoring of manufacturing, and one key example that we've seen from that is Micron. And then one that is really the king of all macroeconomic factors is demographic changes. And especially that can be visualized with the population pyramid model. So first, there's lots of ways of measuring migration in Idaho. So U-Haul, they provide kind of what their analytics are on an annual basis for move-ins, move-outs, and the states in orange are the ones that have seen the greatest move-ins. This is the screenshot from 2025 report that U-Haul did. And so essentially, can we be quiet from the...
Please refrain from speaking in the audience while staff is presenting. Thank you.
So the orange states are the ones that have seen the highest move-ins in 2025. And in 2025, Idaho was ranked number 8, and Meridian and Nampa were ranked number 11 and 25 in terms of city growth. And so since we're sandwiched basically between those, we take in that growth also. 2024, Idaho was ranked number 10, Boise was number 17 nationwide, and honestly, ever since 2018, Idaho has only fallen out of the top 10 in terms of state in migration once, and that was in 2020 when we were 30. Atlas Van Lines, they're another competitor of U-Haul. As you can see, the ones in light blue are the ones, according to Atlas Van Lines, are the ones that are seeing high move-in. So you see in the deep south and upper Midwest, in North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and Washington State, we're seeing high move-ins. And then a few others that, a few move-outs in other states. As you can see, some of the data doesn't align completely because they're different vendors' internal data. And then a third data point, I always like to get 3 data points whenever I'm making decisions rather than focusing on just one. As you can see, one analytic was that Idaho was the second fastest growing state at 63, I think it was 63 essentially move-ins per 10,000 inhabitants. South Carolina was pretty strong too. Interestingly, in 2025, Florida, despite all of its press, has cooled substantially, and Texas remains strong. And Montana according to this, is still pretty strong. So, like I say, Idaho is a strong place to move to for various reasons. And because of this, whoa, what happened? Let's pull in that. Okay, so as part of this, I also like to look at how that growth is actually affecting home value growth year over year. And as you can see, Idaho is positive. I tend to focus on southern Idaho trends. Anything in red is actually showing a positive trend, meaning home values are increasing rather than decreasing. Any blue would be decreasing, which is not found in this map. However, what you do find is that the Boise metro, or that market, is essentially flat over the last year or so, and that's because essentially supply is meeting demand, which is a very good thing. Regardless of how anyone feels about growth, whether it's too fast or too slow, it is meeting its supply is meeting demand, which is a good thing. However, if we look at the next image over, we see some mini markets outside of the Treasure Valley that tell a different story. So for instance, Blaine County, you can see that it increased 16.8% over the last year, and the Rexburg market increased 6.5%. So some leading reasons for that are Haley, Sun Valley, Bellevue area. There's a lot of federally owned land, but there's a substantial low inventory. And it's difficult to build there due to weather, many times due to harsh winters and whatnot, and short building seasons. Rexburg, actually the story there is that there's very low supply, and sometimes you're seeing destruction of existing structures in the fact that there's multi-family units going up that's actually reducing single family housing there. And just to do a comparison, the reason that Rexburg has grown so much is that the university there currently has 24,000 students there. As a comparison, ISU has 14,000, BSU has 28.5 thousand, U of I has 12,000. And just to take a time machine back, in 2005, that same university in Rexburg only had 12.5 thousand students. So essentially the enrollment has doubled over the last 20 years or so, which has led to a shortage in housing. And so it's important to take those considerations into mind when we look at these. And then the next item is we kind of see the flip side. So for as much press as some of these states such as Texas and Florida have gotten, we're actually seeing decreases in home values in those states, especially Florida, because there's an overabundance of housing there for various reasons. Essentially they overbuild, or for various reasons they're not as affordable as they used to be maybe 10 years ago. And so for that reason, they're actually seeing price reductions in those states. However, the state of Idaho, as I mentioned, we're actually seeing about the right level of growth, surprisingly, despite anyone's personal belief on the matter. As such, reshoring, another item that's driving macroeconomics is reshoring of manufacturing. And there's many reasons for that, in basically starting after World War II, really, we saw an offshoring of manufacturing for various reasons, but now we're seeing a reshoring of manufacturing. Some of those reasons could be supply chain resiliency, global cost structure changes, and the biggest reason for that is China is no longer competitive cost-wise, like they were 20 to 30 years ago. We also see trade tensions and national security issues, and we also see government incentives for reshoring, which we see especially with the CHIPS and Science Act. And really the poster child for the reshoring of manufacturing is Micron, in which they announced that they would do a $50 billion investment in the Boise market, and phase one will be completed in 2026. I believe that there's phase two, and I can't remember if there's a phase three also, in which there would be anywhere between 2,400 to 4,000 direct Micron jobs, and then there would be indirect construction jobs and whatnot. And as you can see, I think the stock price tells the difference, and I'm not advocating or giving financial advice, obviously, with these charts, but you can see 5 years ago, their stock price was, you know, below $200, and now it's, I checked today and it was over $1,000. And it's due to primarily optimism on the reshoring end in vital industries. And like I say, these are factors that are definitely above our control. But like I say, the third most important factor in everything is really demographics. Demographic changes really control all of these factors. And the way we measure that is through population pyramids. And no nation really has a perfect population pyramid, but the United States has a good one. As you can see, despite it not being as broad at the bottom as you would typically think, it actually is pretty good. And you can see over time it's projected that the population will increase. In fact, by 2100, the population will be 421 million. However, as we were saying, the population demographics of China are the complete opposite. So despite this not looking much different on the outset, you can see at the very bottom that there's a complete collapse and inversion of the population pyramid. And in fact, in 2100, the population estimate is supposed to be 633 million, a reduction in almost 1 billion inhabitants, which that is the real foment for the reshoring. And the reason why their cost structure doesn't work anymore is the fact that you have an older demographic. And the same bodes true roughly for Western Europe. So as you can see, basically, the population pyramid inverted about 55, 60 years ago in Western Europe. It's not as bad in Western Europe, but it's still on the path to decline. In 2100, they're estimated to be about 185 million. And in order to maintain supply chain, that's creating the reshoring in the United States, and especially the North American sphere. And as I stated, the problems with population pyramid inversion are, number one, inflation. Inflation's guaranteed in a population inversion because in order to maintain the same level of output, you have to pay people more to produce more more widgets or more services, which requires labor inflation, and it's especially seen in healthcare. Healthcare is primarily drawn, the costs are primarily a function of the number of people paying into it as opposed to the people taking. And as population pyramids invert, those healthcare models get very difficult and inflation occurs. Another problem is shrinking consumer markets and obviously geopolitical and military vulnerability. So these are the macroeconomic things that are happening around us that affect us then at a micro level. Just as there's macro and microeconomics, there's effects at a micro and a macro level. So as we see the microeconomics at a city level, In-migration is forecasted to stay steady. In fact, the city of Boise did a study 3 years ago in which they estimated that Ada County required 6,200 housing units per year, of which Boise could only fulfill approximately 1,200 to 1,700 on a good year, which means the other surrounding cities had to pick up the rest of that 6,200. And as I stated, if supply does not meet demand, that creates price inflation. That was probably the most prevalent in the Californian market over the last really decades, that they were unable to provide sufficient housing units, which created the massive inflation that we see today. Then, like I said, demand for housing remains steady, and it will for quite a while, actually. And as part of that, we've built in that building permits are expected to remain basically on par with current year results, but I have reduced the budget by a factor in case something happens and we're not able to meet exactly what this year's is, since this year has been so robust. At a micro level, we're expecting the Micron expansion to be finished, and as such, there would be, additional need for housing, and several other minor companies have also looked at reshoring their domestic production. And then just some interesting charts for demographics. As you can see, Ada County has pretty good demographics. And these charts are from the census data, which the United States keeps excellent data. And then let's look at another county that has poor demographics, that would be one of our competitors. This is Multnomah County, Oregon, home to Portland. King County essentially looks the same. Denver County, Colorado, looks essentially the same. As you can see, they had pretty good shape, and then all of a sudden, about 30, once you reach the 25 to 30 bar, it's just an inward collapsing. And so for that reason, it's important to remember that the reason that so many businesses are looking to relocate here is because Ada County does not have a dramatic collapse in demographics after the 30-year bar. In other words, they have a good labor pool to draw from for years to come in Ada County. And like I say, several of our biggest competitor regions have poor demographics for one reason or another. And the state of Idaho also pretty good shape, honestly. Not quite as good as Utah's. Utah's has pretty much the best shape, but Idaho's is pretty much on par with it. Now let's take a look at some poor examples. Just because Idaho overall is good, let's take a look at some examples of poor shapes. Boise County, home to Idaho City or Horseshoe Bend. As you can see, the median age is about 55. That's pretty poor demographics. Let's see. Or let's look at Madison County, home to Rexburg. As you can see, essentially it's all college kids. And as soon as you get to 30, basically they're all gone. So I think Ada County's doing pretty good. And if you look at CUNA, obviously when the smaller subset that you get, the more peculiar looking the population pyramid looks, but it's still actually pretty good. We could fill in better the 20 to 24 bars a little bit, but I mean, that's still pretty good. That could be done through adding amenities or by having better access to post-high school education, things like that.
They all went to Rexburg.
You could say that. All right, so with those factors in mind, we have the actual budget put together. So the prior meeting we had, directors give their budget proposals, and with these factors and the director's proposals, the top line number comes in at 201 million as compared to 154 million. And so before anybody has any sticker shock or has an aneurysm, this is actually pretty standard increases compared to where we were in any prior year, honestly. So this is an 8-year comparison. And as you can see, some years we have quite the increase. This year was about 30%. And the fiscal 26 was about a 36%. If we go all the way back to 2022, we actually had a 64% increase in budget. And then as to make it simpler, the average increase per year is about 27%. That lines up pretty much exactly with the market value increase that we've seen in the city of Kuna clear back to 2022. So essentially we're meeting exactly where we need to be in terms of where the budget should be in terms of a top line number. Then we have a cash flow summary, and to me this is a much more interesting figure to look at to show that within each fund it shows the revenue, expected revenue and expenses, also the carryover and contingency that we would expect. So as you can see, we try to be responsible, and we try to also make sure that we can pay for everything that we're asking for. In the general fund, we're expecting a surplus of 1.2 million. The grant fund would be simply spending transportation funds if the right project came available. The latecomer fund, the reason that's negative is because of all the infrastructure needs that we have in terms of sewer and water construction. The water fund's positive, the sewer fund's positive, the irrigation fund is also positive. Trash fund, that's just a pass-through fund from us to J&M since we do a lot of their billing for them, and so that should always be essentially zero. The Water East Fund, that one's strong. The cash flow is strong, and that's the way it should be on that one, so that we have funds available to make replacements out there. The Sewer East Fund is looking strong. The Capital Projects Fund, essentially when you take into consideration that we have 200,000 in funds in that, in carryover in that, we would want that to be zero at the end of the day. The Park Impact Fund, that will be spending a lot of our funds since we have a lot of parks to build. The Police Impact Fund, that one we want to essentially get to zero so that we can repay the general fund for its initial investment in building the station out front. And then even though the urban renewal agencies are not consolidated within the city in terms of the budgeting, I did include them just for information only so that you can see that we're still cash positive on those as well. And then I've provided details for each fund about how everything goes together, what our property tax revenue would be, what our state liquor distribution, on and on down the line. There were several assumptions made as part of these models. Again, we have assumptions made for expenses, and the detail rolls up into that one sheet that shows the cash flow summaries. We have detail for the Latecomers Fund, Water Fund, detail for these capital improvements is on the second page. And those should match what, directors provided last time. The sewer fund, also, we have details for the revenues and the carryovers that we anticipate. In addition to the capital projects that were introduced last time and, that seem to be received. The irrigation fund, essentially, this is, just showing an inflation adjustment. I can't remember exactly what that is off the top of my head, but I can delve into the details if wanted. Then we have the capital projects and the irrigation fund. That's a little bit smaller, just due to the nature of it. Solid waste fund. And then we have the, water east fund that, services Meta currently. And then just a few capital projects there in it, if they end up being needed. The sewer east fund, again, this is currently serving only Meta, however, it allows for connectivity of other users. And we have the capital projects there. And then we have the Park Impact Fund and the different amounts that we expect from that fund. As you can see, here's the capital projects for that. A lot of good projects there. And then we have the Police Impact Fund that is, as I stated, used to pay back the general fund currently. However, in the future, we can use that to build future substations. It cannot be used to purchase vehicles, since those would have less than a 10-year life. That's the requirement under park impact fees, is that the life expectancy of an asset has to at least be 10 years, which would preclude police units, since they likely won't last 10 years. They may not even last 2, given the amount of wear and tear that comes into a police vehicle. So that leads us to the budget decisions. So really there's just 2 decisions, one on revenue and one on expenses. And so as part of that, the biggest decisions have to do with property tax. As part of that, city staff recommends reclaiming the 1% of foregone tax from 2026, taking the full 3% increase, and taking the full construction and annexation rolls. The reason for this recommendation is in order to maintain police services at a long-term level, is that those services need to be provided by a fixed revenue stream. And as such, under Idaho law, those are the options that were afforded. Utility rates, it's suggested to take a 3.54% COLA to maintain system operations for water, sewer, trash. Then for expenses, a COLA for labor of 3.54% to maintain competitiveness in the labor market, especially since unemployment is still below 4.5%. I mean, really, anything below 4.5% is full employment. Then any considerations with capital projects, and then we have options to add additional city staff and options under the police service. The reason for suggesting option 3 was this was Chief Ratusco and also Chief Hessing's preferred option. This is also the option that the city can best afford at the moment, given the constraints on revenue. Just a reminder, that was the ICAC service, 2 patrol deputies, detective sergeant, and a code enforcement. So that's 5 additional officers, which, like I said, aligns with option 3 for a total of $6.2 million. And for a long-term understanding of how that affects us. Currently, in fiscal '26, we're at 98% of our property tax level. And for 2027, that would bring us to 111%. The reason that we're able to exceed 100% is because we have fixed revenue streams from the mitigation fees that were paid by Meta, and also that were promised in the negotiations with Project Gemstone, which hopefully will be approved soon. And one interesting chart that I'd like to add also is this from the Ada County Assessor's website. So as you can see, over time, the percentage of commercial to residential has actually improved over the last few years. So as you can see, we're down to about 82% and 17% for commercial. So those trends are improving over what they were in 2022. And as you can see, each individual's or each homeowner's property tax bill has also decreased markedly. So from the peak in 2022, in which we were essentially even with other states, our size and in our region, we were at about 1,900 per home, and now we're at about 1,259, which I did an actual study of 143 other cities our size, and there are 140 that are above us. So essentially, we're at the very bottom of what property taxes are charged around the nation. So essentially, we're very, very competitive in property taxes, and honestly, we could probably increase that a little bit to get our police services up if that's the direction the council wants to go. So with that, I'll just stand for any questions and field any questions you may have in regards to these assumptions.
Okay. Questions for Jared? Yes, Councilmember Biggs.
Just one, Jared. What's the 3.54 COLA? What's that based on? Is that the national projected cost of living allowance?
Yeah, so what we do to calculate COLA is we actually take the CPI data that's provided by the federal government, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And what we do is, instead of taking the national number, we actually take the western states, and the western states number came in at 3.54, whereas the national number came in at 4.2. If we were being truly judicious, we'd probably take the producer price index for the utility rates, and we'd probably take the CPI data for the labor rates. However, we want to just make it consistent and easy. If we took the PPI numbers, producer price index, it would far strip out what the CPI is.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a
Further
quick
question? Yes, Councilmember
Jared,
Rucker.
thank you very much. You mentioned the mitigation. I don't see that in the numbers at all. Was it 400,000? Is that supposed to be annually, 400,000?
Yeah, so if we go back, whoops. Helps if I don't get too excited. All right, so let's see. We're looking at page 346. Thanks, Nate. All right, so the mitigation fee from Meta was actually paid in 2022, and for that reason, it's already recorded as revenue.
And how much was it at that time?
It was 8.4 million.
Got it, okay, so you're spreading it out over X amount of years?
Yeah, so we actually made the pitch to Meta to have that paid over time, and they just countered and said we want to pay it immediately. So for that reason, because we were below 100% of our property tax level, we've actually just been holding on to those funds since then, And so, that would actually just be found in the carryover number.
Oh, got it, got it.
However, the mitigation fee that, is figured in here is right here.
What
So-
page is that again?
So it's on the same page. So the mitigation payment of 400,000, that's what is currently considered for the Project Gemstone project. That should be 400,000 a year, and that should increase, with an inflation adjustment every year.
Okay, got it. Healthcare, what are you projecting as far as for the city's healthcare? What are you seeing as far as percentage increase?
Yeah, so, that's a little bit difficult since we haven't gotten the final number yet. However, I can tell you that my colleagues, have gotten their numbers back, and it ranges anywhere between, I believe, 12% and 17%, and so I always, budget for 15%.
Got it.
And I think that's just a fact of life now, given the demographic changes that we've seen in the country, that one should expect to see strong increases every year in healthcare.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, further question? All right.
I do have another question. I guess it's really twofold between you and Adam. What was the criteria, why an engineer? Because you were requesting an engineer too, correct? And what's the criteria? Is it just all about just affordability, that the engineer is not placed?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest reasons for having an in-house engineer is that the city, just a couple of years ago, had one, and we saw the value in having an in-house engineer in terms of ability to make, in order to make decisions easily. And it's also better to, cost-wise, given that engineers cost anywhere between $200 and probably $250 an hour to outsource. And so if you can save on some simple plan review or other review or utility reviews by having it in-house, that makes sense.
Right, and so but why wasn't it added to the budget?
It is.
The engineer is?
Oh, I may have just forgotten to include it on that page.
Because it shows that it's not.
Yeah, so, in the further detail that build in these, it is included. However, I forgot to include that on my summary page.
No, I got it. And so really, everybody got what they were looking for, except for Chief Hessing was going for option 4 for at least 2 weeks ago. So we have option 3.
That's correct.
Right, so everybody got what they needed.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thanks for, mentioning that. I'll make sure to update that in my summary page for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further for Jared? Jared, thank you.
Thank
I know
you.
we spent a lot of time and effort in that. You do a really good job with that, so I appreciate it. All right, that takes us to our item 7D is the step and grade items, D through, which was D through 2 and 8. 2 through 8.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions about that.
Councilmember Rocker.
And the reason why it's resurfacing for me, I know we had talked about it 2 weeks ago or a month ago, but some things have come to my attention, so I wanted to follow up with this. And one of
Okay.
them was, if an employee believes their classification does not accurately reflect their duties and responsibilities, what process exists for review or reconsideration?
Well, let Nancy Stoffer take that.
Okay, sir, can you repeat the question?
Right. There is, as far as, if the employee believes that a classification doesn't accurately reflect their duties and responsibilities, what process exists for review or reconsideration?
Nancy Stauffer, Human Resources Director, for the record. So their first step would be to speak with their supervisor. Go over their job description. Every employee is issued a job description, either when they are hired, promoted, any of that, and then go over that and they sign it and it goes in their employee file. So they know what their job is. If they feel, which there's always other duties as assigned, but it's in the resolution that if job duties are added to an employee and they become permanent, then their job is reevaluated at that time.
By whom?
Their director,
Got it.
supervisor and director,
And then where does the director take that to?
HR.
Got it. And then what happens?
Then you have to determine where they fall in the step and grade. Have they met the other requirements? Have they been here the 4,000 hours, 8,000 hours, 6,000 hours? Have they received the education, training, certifications? All of those have to be met. There are times where some of the duties will change. There are times where we have to reevaluate our job descriptions and we sit down with the directors and sometimes they are rewritten. Sometimes pay is factored into that as well. And, you know, nothing is ever stagnant, so it can always be reevaluated. But their first step is to go to their supervisor and director.
How many grades are there, or is it each different department have different grade levels?
13 grades.
And what's the maximum grade?
Is
it 13?
Yeah.
And what happens if an employee reaches grade 13?
Well, I don't know because it's never happened.
Right, but what happens if it does?
We would reevaluate the step and grade system. That would be a very, very highly paid employee to reach a 13.
Is there an employee that's at 11, 12? Is there, I mean, I'm just
We
concerned.
have a 12.
I'm sorry?
We have 12. We have an employee at a grade 12. But when you're at a 12, now you're going across. So your grades go 1 through 13, but then they go across A, B, C through to a double H. So you're going to go up, and then you're going to continue to go over in percent marks. Depending on how a promotion goes, what their certification or education that they've received, they may go up a grade and over, but it takes a very long time to get up to a 13 double H.
Right, so what's the longest, what do you have? What's the longest employee's tenure right now? What do you have? What is it? 15
Longest right
years?
now is 18 years. Where'd Troy go? It's Troy. Where's Troy? He was 08, yeah, so,
So he's at 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
and he's potentially getting maxed out?
no. He's, because how long you've been here and the job that you do some people can take longer to max out than others. It depends on what their position is, what their job duties are.
Yeah, the reason why I'm drilling down on this is some things have come to my attention that feels that there may be a max out point. And I'm just trying to discover that for myself. You know, can you just share with me what the methodology was to how you came with the step and grade?
Working with, I didn't come up with the step and grade. We've had that for, well, it's I want to say 08, 09.
That sounds about right,
Yeah, when the step and grade was introduced at that time. So we've been following on what you're asking is how we came up with the caps.
Correct.
For the positions. So each job has a starting salary. And we built off of what was already existing, but what we're finding is you may have an employee that has, we'll use a very simple one. So you have a customer service specialist that is entry level. Your requirement is to have a GED or a high school diploma. And you start working here it's a 4A on the step and grade, and that is our entry level wage. And they maintain that. There's no extra certifications, there's no extra education. They don't promote to the next level. They just continue to do that job, and we need people to continue to do that job. But what we don't need is someone to compound and you're gonna get your longevity raise, you're always gonna get your cost of living increase, assuming that we get one that year. What we can have is someone that is still doing an entry-level position with the entry-level education and certifications, reaching a 13.
I got that.
That's the
Yeah.
whole point of, it's not to, and we have an alternative method, because no one wants to continue to work and never receive another raise again, because your service to the city is always valuable. So instead of the compounding, which gets people to the higher level but doing the same, what we switched that to was a bonus structure, is what the request is. So if you get a 4% increase, which would be, you're a great employee, everything's great every 2 years, instead that 4% would be in a bonus one time, instead of compounding on a wage, getting people out of the range of the position that they're actually performing.
Right, again, I just was looking for an assurance that nobody can be capped out. Is that my understanding?
No, people can be capped out. What won't happen is that they will never get more money. What it doesn't happen is it becomes compounding. If it's a raise, that adds, you get a 4% raise, and then next year we get a 4% COLA, and then next year you get a 4% raise, and then the next thing you know is that this person that is still performing the exact same job with the exact same qualifications is making more money than what we as citizens should expect our taxpayers, or what we as employees should expect our taxpayers to,
From that position.
from that position. But every position is rated differently. Every
saying that-
position has different qualifications.
Right, so if you look at a Public Works versus Parks, dramatically different classifications?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But to have
Dramatically
that,
different
there's
education and certifications.
There's generally opportunities for people to make, sometimes even lateral moves that do have the ability to train more and get more certifications so that they can move up.
Yes.
Right, but if you have somebody that's specialized and has a specialized function, there's really not gonna be any lateral in that situation. There's not gonna be a
Well,
lateral.
not necessarily lateral.
Right.
but-
I'm sorry to be drilling down on this, but
No, that's fine.
I feel that I've just received some information, and I think that I just wanted to make sure that if I'm going to approve, I guess we would have to be, I just want to make sure that I feel comfortable with
Yeah.
that. I want, Councilman Biggs, I'm not familiar with this world. I'm not familiar with government work, and you've been in government. Is this very similar to how your incentives and pay structure is?
Yes, but moving up is dependent on the job more than your qualifications in general. It's the scope of the job. So if your grade is a GS 13, that's because you have a certain scope of responsibility. All those other things don't really matter as much in the federal side. But time and seniority, you can move up on the step ladder. Now, you couldn't move up to a 14 unless you take a job of greater responsibility. So it's very similar.
Yes.
So, Chris, let me ask you, is there anybody in Parks that could max out, cap out?
No, not at this time.
But could they?
Potentially down the line, but I would say probably not likely in the near future.
Adam, in Public Works, can anybody cap out?
Adam Wenger, City of Cuna Public Works. Councilman Rocco, I currently have multiple staff that are above the cap. Yes, sir.
I didn't understand that. You said above the cap?
They are above the cap.
So what does that mean then?
That would mean if this were passed, they would be ineligible for longevity or merit raises. Instead, they would be getting cash bonuses for those. The only increase to hourly pay would come through COLAs.
Okay, so you have some people in Public Works that are not gonna be able to earn as much money because they've reached a certain level.
Correct.
Okay, I have a problem with that. I'm just have a problem with it. And I don't know where we go with it, but I have a problem with that.
Okay, can you explain can
Well,
you
I-
explain more of what your problem with that is?
Well,
Is that,
What he just said, you got somebody that gets capped out because they maybe being a long-time employee. And then at that point, the best they're gonna get is gonna get a COLA increase, or something gets thrown to a bonus or something. But that person is not gonna be able to earn as much money as they could have if the cap restriction wasn't there.
correct, but they're doing the exact same job, not more responsibility. They're doing the exact same job that they've always done. So we're still rewarding them for that. We're still compensating them. It's just not compounding.
I can't disagree with that more in the sense of, somebody's really being penalized here. Forget about they're doing the same job. There's a level of expertise that some people can have that they're being restricted now. And so I just disagree with that.
But let me kind of, but they would still be, so I have a question. So could they still get a raise from their departments, would they collect more certifications or something like that? Would they be able to get pay raises for that?
I don't wonder how it works. Potentially. There are certifications that go with the job classifications. The only way to get raises there would be to get those primary certifications and increase job level. For people that are at the top of those tiers, there are no other certifications to attain to increase that.
But we can upgrade, I'm sorry, I have another one.
Yes, go ahead,
But we
Councilmember
could
Bruce.
actually upgrade the pay to be competitive with the market if necessary, with other cities.
And we have.
Okay.
Absolutely have. We
When
are
was the
competitive.
last time? When was the last time?
2 years ago?
For Public Works.
Public Works was 2023.
Yeah.
And those increases were, well, for one department, the increase was $5 an hour.
Just because we
For
had to-
just because of what they do and to keep us competitive with Boise, Meridian. And then that's a very specialized, our wastewater and water department, they're expected to maintain certifications and
Trainings.
testing, training. We want to make sure that they are paid, for the job that they're performing.
Because we couldn't get anybody, we couldn't hire people because everywhere else was.
Right. Adam, the ones that are capped out, let's use that expression, that they're capped out, of those, is there any ones that have additional certifications that they could get to actually make them more qualified?
%30 could.
I guess maybe I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's got 70% of his that are capped out that can't realize any more money other than a COLA increase or a little bit of a bonus, however they're, jigging the money up. So I just don't understand it.
I think you could probably take time, maybe spend some time with them and research it, and if it's something that you want to update, we can update that down the road, at least implement these for the folks that are here so that they can stay competitive, and if you want to upgrade something, we can come back and do that.
Okay, let's talk about this. So right now we have this, we're looking for to approve this?
Yes,
Okay, then I would vote no on it.
okay.
That's, and I'll take the time. So are you suggesting that I take the time to work with Adam?
Yeah, do we need to, or do we have people that are waiting to have this approved now so that they can,
Is it important to get this through right at the moment? I mean, other than for budget purposes?
Budget purposes, there are several other things in there that, we revised the bonus so that it reads up to 5%, and it's not a one-time bonus, that employees could get. All of the step and grade resolutions read differently when it came to the bonus. We wanted every employee to have the same opportunity for the bonus structure. That one, the caps,
because I think if you wanted to update it, then, and if they could keep moving up to get pay raises, we would eventually be paying more than the market would pay for that position.
and we are for some,
But-
capped employees now, so.
Mr. Mayor,
And
is
that's
this,
something I worry
yeah.
about for a city level, that we're paying more than public people would get.
yeah, I think your suggestion is valid. I was wondering, could we table this until I have a chance to meet with Adam?
Next meeting? Well, I mean,
I'll be honest, I'm gonna have to leave that up to somebody else. I won't work here anymore. So, I mean, Justine will have all of the information that I have, because that is a conversation that she will need to be a part of.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I want you to take the time to learn that, but I don't want the city's government to be paying more than private entities would. You know, I have a problem with that that the government's paying more than what the private market would pay.
Again, we're gonna take this offline, I'm gonna meet with Adam, but I'll ask Adam that question. Adam, with those people that we're talking about, are they gonna end up getting paid more than the private enterprise?
Adam Munger, Public Works, no.
No.
These, primarily these positions only serve public utilities. They are a public
So it's only government?
capacity, it's only government. Some of them could take this to private industry and they would make more there on day one, unquestionably. Even the ones that are getting paid above the active rate.
So I'm okay with you taking the time to.
I'd like to have the time.
Yeah.
I'd like to have the time until, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, to meet with Adam. And at least I can come back with more data in time for maybe the next council meeting.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Thank you, I appreciate
All
that.
right. You guys okay with it?
I'm fine with that. I'll just, for perspective, as a federal employee, this is far better than what we get. Because I can tell you, I'm one step from maxing out, per se. But as somebody I live with, and our compensation at the max level is only 0.5% of any kind of COLA increase. Theirs is far better. They can still get bonuses too. We don't. Not saying that that's any better or any worse, but this is pretty reasonable. But if you want more time, I'm definitely support that.
Yeah, because I'm here, right, as a legislature, I'm here to actually look at what's going on in CUNA and the staff of CUNA. So that's where my interest is focused
All
right
of us
now.
should be. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so that's where I am.
And I think we all are.
Yeah,
I think
and I'm not saying you
we've been-
aren't.
Yeah,
You know,
we've been
just-
through this process before. Maybe you need a little more time to understand.
I don't know
think-
about that, Chris. I don't. I want to be able to find more information.
Well, you
I don't
got
want to
it.
chalk this up to.
You got it.
Yeah, I don't want
You
to
got
chalk
it.
this up to a rookie thing. Give me the time to go wait with Adam.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
That way we won't blame it on the new guy.
Okay, yeah.
So to be clear, it's the step and grade resolutions that you want to table.
1 through 7. Well, 1
No.
through 7D, but yes, 69.
They're not all step and grade. There's an update to the handbook, and there's one regarding SOPs for the directors. Are you
So-
wanting to table those as well?
We took R69 through R75.
Right, I don't think it included
We
the two to
approved
you,
the other
yeah.
ones.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So you took only step and grade.
I'm
That's what
pretty
I
sure
saw.
it was only
Yes,
step and
that's
grades.
all I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, so R70 is the standard operating. That's the SOP.
Okay.
So, did you guys,
So that's number 3.
It's
number
not-
3,
And what
And
else you
then-
got? Okay.
should be,
That's it, right? Longevity.
yeah, so. Is 41, did they include that too? They did not. 41, okay. So 3 and 9. So 9 was good? Okay,
And 9 we already
Mine
did.
was already done.
okay.
So 3 would be the only one.
I think that's in 2026.
Now, Mr. Mayor, and Mark, you may answer this. When I made the motion, I made it business item 7D, 1 through 7. So then we would approve number 2.
3,
Is that correct?
3.
R70.
It's 3.
It's 3.
R70 2026.
Right, what I'm saying is when I originally made the motion to make it business item 7D, numbers 1 through 7. So I don't have 2 through 8, I have 1 through 7, so it would be number 2 that we're approving.
Got it.
Well, then you need to approve number 1, resolution R68, 2026 too, if you move that as a business item.
I moved 2 through 8 and numbered them 1 through 7.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, well, cause you can't, you wouldn't have a number one.
We don't need a number one.
Yeah.
So Councilmember Rocco, is your only concern with the Public Works one or all of them?
That's what it sounds like, because I asked, is there, Development Services cap out? Is
All
four-
of them, everybody. There's a
No, what
cap
I'm
for
saying
every
is
single
The way
one.
Adam answered the question, there are people that are at the top and they're not eligible, they can't advance anymore. Is there anybody else in your departments that are at that level?
No, but some would be very close.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
we can-
Let me start
yeah.
with Public Works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just table all of them except R70.
Okay.
So I move we approve, business item 7D, number 2, R70, 2026.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move we table business item 7D, number 1, which is R69, 2026, number 3, R71-2026, number 4, which is R72, 2026, number 5, which is R73, 2026, number 6, R74, 2026, and number 7, which is R75, 2026, to a date certain of July 7th, 2026.
Second.
All right, motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All
Holy
right,
smokes.
and so that is all we had on the agenda tonight. Thursday, July 2nd at 2 p.m., we will be dedicating a Liberty Tree down on the Greenbelt through Parks and Recreation. Then Saturday, July 4th, there's a Freedom Fun Run that starts at 8 a.m. And Saturday, July 4th, starting at 6 p.m., will be the City of Cuna celebration. There's going to be food trucks and music and fireworks at the end of the evening. So, and again, thank you to the legislature for America 250 and the most awesome mural on the side of the VFW building. It's just amazing. People notice that, and I think people are truly inspired.
Yeah, she did a great job. They are having an American 250 celebration at the Capitol on July 4th. It starts with a pancake breakfast. It goes into a parade and then performers all day. So you can go to the Treasurer's website, to American 250, and see who all's there. So it's a long day. I don't know that I'll be there all day long, but it's a
So we
lot.
have to choose between a pancake feed and a fun run?
No, it starts at, or maybe get down and grab some pancakes and then run it off.
Probably not a good idea
Yeah.
for me. All right, very good. Anything further? All right, well, thank you very much. This is probably, most likely, the last time that this council will meet in this room.
Yeah, Mayor, did you want to mention the open house?
And yes, there will be an open house July 1st at
From 2 to 4
2 to 4
for the new chamber building.
of the new chamber building.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
I thought July 4th was on Friday. So July 1st is on Wednesday?
And probably a whole bunch of other fun things that I didn't mention tonight, so make sure you check it out. All right, with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.